Hello. Well, while I was sitting there, I was thinking that yeah, if I get caught up, it might be a quick interaction as well. As strong as my question is, I am having a hard time putting it into a question, so I'll do the best I can. And I've briefly talked with you about this before. I have this very intense and powerful inner being, and the predominant desire.
I want to say something to you about that before you go further.
Please.
Because it's a good basis to move forward on. When you are really consistently in sync with your inner being, you don't describe it as intense, yet just feels normal and like the next logical step. It's only in vibrational variance that you give those kinds of labels to things. So we don't think you mean it quite in that way. Can you say it in another way?
I think
I'm in constant or considerable connection with my inner being. I have steady awareness of my inner being. I am really aware when I'm in sync and not in sync with my inner being. But your inner being does not feel strong in that comparative sense. Really? Does it?
I feel completely at one with my inner being.
There. Connection to your inner being feels like the next logical step. You are so often connected and don't know it, because you hear people talk about connection and you form images in your mind that are not accurate. When you are your most peaceful, you are in alignment. When you feel you're most at one with yourself, you are in alignment. When you feel you're most satisfied, you're in alignment. And so we just want to make sure that everyone understands that alignment can feel like tremendous ease. And that ease can move into great excitement, but there's never any tension in alignment. And some of those words that you were using sort of gave a different
Right. And I agree. Sitting up here, I'm aware that I'm definitely a little more tense than normal. I guess I've come to a place on my spiritual journey where I desire that distinct connection with my inner being so much that it's become, I guess I've started to experience some frustration with it.
Well, we want to tell you why. And you're wise in recognizing in this moment that you feel a little more tense than usual. And it's because of a lot of eyes on you. There's a sort of awareness. In other words, when you think about your relationship with your inner being, and you don't consider for a moment how anybody else plays into that, it's just you and your inner being, then it's easy. But when you are considering being a teacher or being an uplifter or being a bright light in the world or the effect that you'll have on others, then you introduce unnecessary resistance into the equation. That's all it is.
Okay.
That's all it is. Your relationship is solid until you consider someone else's awareness of it.
Oh, okay.
So there's still a little bit, and it's true of almost everyone, there's still a little bit of competitive feeling of wanting to manifest something that's visible to others. It may be helpful for you to just decide that your joy about your life is all that you care about being visible to others. And of course, lots of other manifestations will follow. You don't want to be the richest person, you just want to be the happiest person. And you don't want to be the most clever person, you just want to be the happiest person. You just want to be having a really good time. And you don't want to be the smartest person, you just want to really see wonderful things in that person and that person and that person. You see what we're getting at? It's sort of letting the trappings of the physical world take a lesser important place, while the trappings of alignment come more to the forefront and matter more to you. It's not easy to be in this physical body and not have awareness of how others are thinking and feeling about you. But you got to get over that, because they are not trustworthy.
I'll put this in a way that it wants to come out of me. I feel like I'm probably backtracking with a couple of things that we've talked about before, but so my connection with my inner being is pretty easy for me.
Yes, most natural thing in the world.
My outer life has been very amazing. I've been a very prolific creator.
Yes.
as a martial artist, a rock climber, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes.
I've been very successful, and my
Yes.
inner being is the reason for that.
And what's been driving you with all of that has been an inner desire, not the way others are revering you?
No question, yes.
Good.
And I'm at the point where I really desire to be more of a spiritual master than than a rock climber or car driver or something.
Well, they go together. You cannot become or be as you are a spiritual master without mastering everything. You get tuned in and everything you've ever wanted starts being yours. You can't say, oh, hold off on that good stuff.
Right.
And just because at one time you maybe needed it more for effect and now you don't, doesn't mean it won't still come.
Okay. I've mentioned
When we say abundance, we mean all of it.
that
Abundance
actually
of
helps
all
a lot.
things.
Yeah.
We mean abundance of all things ever wanted. Ever sounds like past, but it isn't. Because if you ever wanted it, your inner being is all over it presently. It's not past. It's in the vortex, and it's being tended to, and law of attraction is responding to it. If you ever wanted it, it's active. Don't you like knowing that?
So I mentioned to you last time I spoke with you that my inner being always appears to me as a dragon. And recently I was in Peru.
Well, that's a little bit of the reason, not remembering that as such, but what does the dragon represent to you? If you were to define it through your physical awareness, what does a dragon represent to you?
I wish I knew. I mean,
Esther saw one in her dream last night.
Very nice.
Romping through a neighborhood. She could hear the thunder of what sounded like a stampede. And in her dream, she translated it to be deer and maybe a moose or two that were thundering down this dirt road. And she was with friends, and she said, let's just get out of the way, because if this herd is as big as I think it is, it would be good for us to step out of the way and give it plenty of room. And in the lead was a dragon.
Wow. Wow.
And Esther said, whoa,
Wow.
better get out of the way of that dragon, until she realized that it was joyously romping and leading the herd. Interesting, don't you think?
Very interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that romping and leading the herd is a good description.
Yep. Powerful.
Yeah, very.
Inspiring. Infectious. Why would deer and moose follow a dragon anyway? It was completely illogical. And yet there it was.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know that this will have any correlation to anything, but when I was in Peru, you know, a lot of people go down there to experience the plant medicines that they do. So I went down there to see what that was about. And while everybody else had their visionary experiences of vast sorts, my experience was steadily one thing and one thing only, and that was seeing that dragon inside of me just looking back at me the whole time. Nothing else ever happened. After everything was said and done, I realized that that inner being, that steady part of me, is the part of me that I'm desiring to connect up with in a hopefully a deeper sense. And that seemed to be what that experience was about.
Well, it's the reason for Esther's dream in anticipation, her not knowing, but us knowing about this conversation, because your connection to that is so strong that now others are beginning to see it who are in alignment. And so that's why we reflect this back to you in this way. You've been the only one seeing that dragon before. Now Esther's seen it.
I guess, is there any other advice you'd give to me, myself? I've asked you that question before, but that seems to be what I continue to come back to.
We would encourage you not to need anyone else ever to see your dragon. It's enough just knowing that your connection with your inner being is...
How do I connect with it more? Because it comes and goes. If I need it, it's always there. But my connection with it comes and goes. And that, yeah, that's probably become a little frustrating as I've gotten to the point where I want that connection to be steady.
Well, remember that everything is perceptual. So what does seeing this dragon, what does it mean to you in literal terms? What does it mean to you? Does it mean alignment? Do you have to see it in order to know that you're in alignment?
Yeah, just to speak frankly, when that inner being of mine comes through, I become one with it, it becomes one with me. My connection with universal knowledge, experience, ability, all becomes one at that time.
But there's a difference in the feeling of being one with your inner being and feeling the lack of it, or a sort of dependency. Just revel in it when it is there. That's why our encouragement to you is to let your connection be represented by so many other things, not just by that visual image.
What about the sensational image, which is the predominant thing that I experience, and the thing that I want the most is that energy connection. It's not the visual is irrelevant.
Let us give you some words and you see which ones resonate the most with you. Is it a feeling of empowerment?
Absolutely.
Is it a feeling of power?
Absolutely.
Well, feel the subtle difference between empowerment and power. Feeling of being invincible?
Yes.
Is it the feeling of clarity?
Yes.
So focus upon those emotions rather than on that image, because the dragon means lots of things that connection to your inner being does not mean.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Really
Yeah.
good.
All right. Thank you.
This is a really good time for a segment of refreshment.